South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Two shot, two camera. Welcome in. It's Sports by the Book. Football frenzy. Sorry, hey, our guy Sean, just making sure we're somewhat in line to begin the show.
Yep.
I'm Jeff Parles. That's Ryan McCormick. We're thrilled to be with you as always. Getting you ready. It's week 8.
Yeah.
Kind of scary.
Already.
Kind of scary. Just you blink your eye. You know, sometimes you miss a line. Sometimes you miss a third of the football season.
Yep.
So, getting ready, nearing the midway point of the National Football League season, and of course, our good friend Dwayne Colucci will join us in about 40 minutes. But Ryan, let's dive right in, my friend. We got 2 good college games that we'll get to a little bit later, but let's get to the main event tonight in the football landscape, and that is the kickoff of Week 8. Minnesota, 5-1, fresh off their first loss of the season. Now, it was a hell of a game against the Lions. Minnesota, I don't feel any worse about the Vikings after that loss to Detroit. The Lions are just really good, and Minnesota fought back in that game after having a double-digit lead. Came back from double-digit down to take a lead late.
Yep.
Jake Bates makes the long kick. Then the Lions defense holds for a 2-point win. Now they go to L.A., who, Ryan, all of a sudden, the L.A. Rams a little bit healthier than expected going into tonight.
Yeah. For this one, I think it just comes down to how tight that NFC North race is going to be when we get to the end of the year. I mean, yeah, the Vikings-Lions game last week was a great one. And there's a stat out there right now. This season, teams that follow the week after playing the Lions, teams are 0-4 straight up and against the spread. The Cowboys had their bye week last week, so we'll get to see that this week, as well as the Vikings playing against the Rams this week. So if you like the trend, might be on the side of the Rams tonight.
So the health-wise, real quick. So Cooper Kupp back.
Yep.
Puka Nacua, a surprising last-minute removal from IR. Expected to play tonight.
Yep.
We're still not 100% there. Well, don't worry. We'll go into the props on this game.
Yep.
Still a scenario, though, Ryan, where the Rams' offensive line is still beat up, facing the second best pass rush in the NFL through the first 8 weeks of the season. Only Houston with a better success rate on rushing the passer so far this year than Minnesota. And you look at this game, it really actually, I think it is going to come down to both defensive fronts more so than anything. The Rams blitz as much as anyone in the National Football League. Minnesota, we know, same sort of deal. Flores are just trying to confuse the heck out of the quarterbacks. Yep. This, I really, more than anything, even more than the guys who are on the field for the first time in a while, even with Aaron Jones, who we weren't certain of is going to play tonight on the Minnesota side, even with that stupid social media rumor floating around of, they're going to flip Stafford for Darnold after this game, which If anyone's believing that, just stop.
No, but man, it would be fun. It would be great.
Okay, yeah, sure. Whatever.
just thinking of the idea.
Whatever. At this rate, I
don't know if you saw my tweet, but I know it's a complete hypothetical and more than likely not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
But Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford somehow pieced together to go to the Vikings.
Yeah, not happening.
You team up Cooper Kupp with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. That would be absolutely disgusting for defenses to solve.
Yeah, not happening though.
No,
I feel pretty good.
But it would be fun.
I will say this could also be Kupp's last game as a Ram. That is realistic. We can't have the suit up twice in 1 week thing, which is a shame because I would love to have seen that at some point, Ryan. But look,
I don't know if Cooper Kupp would be the guy to do it.
I don't think Kupp would be happy with it. I would like it, but Kupp wouldn't be happy with it. Look, looking at this game from a traditional sense, it opened 3. It was there basically the whole week. It's now 2.5 across the board. Juice is dependent on where you're at. It was actually juiced to the dog earlier this morning. Now it's juiced to the favorite the other way at shops that do juice. Of course, minus 110 only behind us here at the South Point. So Minnesota right now at that, and the total 47 if we're looking at this from a traditional sense right now, Ryan, before we get into the props.
Yeah, I mean, looking at a traditional sense, if we're going off of power rankings, we both have the Vikings as a top 5 team in the NFL. And I don't know where you have the Rams, but I had them at a bottom half of the league team.
Definitely bottom half.
Without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. And yes, getting those two back will be a great addition to their team, but we don't know what they look like so far this season. We only saw them in week 1, and that was when Nacua got hurt. So with that being said, just going off of what our power ratings would be, it would be Vikings minus the 2.5 all night long here.
So this morning, when I was doing the morning version of this show, I said that Minnesota 2.5 was pretty good. But I had no inclination that Nacua was even going to be remotely close.
Yep.
And I wasn't so sure about even Kupp going in, even though he was listed as in yesterday.
Yep.
What are we getting out of Kupp in this game? And now, as we get closer to kickoff, this is a weird spot for Minnesota. Off their first loss, traveling across the country. This is basically as far as you can go in a Thursday night game at this point, east to west. They're more willing to let those west teams go east, but they normally don't let you go east to west. Whatever, it is what it is. But I'm going to stay off of this from a traditional sense right now and wait for an in-game scenario for one reason and one reason only. Even though I'm not saying the Rams defense is on the level of the Jets defense, even though it might be on it at this point after whatever that was on Sunday by the Jets. You missed the drop there, Sean. The Rams blitz a lot.
What a disaster.
And the Vikings, when they played the Jets in London, were blitzing a lot in that game. And that was the worst Darnold's looked by margin this year after that opening, when the Jets adjusted midway through. We're just going to blitz him and make him throw the ball sooner than he wants. And Darnold really struggled in that game. And don't be surprised if the Rams attempt to do that same thing tonight. And that's why I've softened on Minnesota here tonight, just because of that. And I want to see how Darnold handles it. Because if he handles it, then Minnesota's much more talented at this point than this Rams team. Coaching staff, we actually have 2 high-end coaching staffs in this game, which is a rarity in this league at this point.
And a coaching tree, too.
O'Connell, of course, was with McVay for a few years
when they won the Super Bowl,
Exactly. This is an even coaching staff game where there's not, and I know people probably yelling at me, oh, wait, you're putting O'Connell on the same level as McVay? Even if he's not, it's close enough that it's not a total mismatch. And Flores,
you also add Flores to
and you put
Flores
against McVay. That's pretty even, all things considered. And that's not to besmirch McVay. McVay's top 7 coach in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
So I want to see what happens in game. That's really the big thing for me. Total is right. I think that the way the market is played, that is right. If this game ends up being a super duper over, it wouldn't stun me. It wouldn't also shock me if this somehow ends up like 20-17.
Yeah.
There's a wide range in this game, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's kind of why I said in a traditional sense, we would be looking at the Vikings minus the 2.5 all night. But like I said, teams that play against the Lions this season are 0-4 straight up and against the spread in the following week. The Rams are getting short rest, having to play on now Thursday against a team that we've mentioned is headed towards the right direction of being healthy. So a little weary on the Vikings minus the 2.5. And I went and did some digging on Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams. All four of those players,
four of them active,
playing in the same game. The Rams are 6-2 in those instances. Yes, I have more prop wise, but yeah, 8 games. Last year. 6-2 were the Rams with all four of those players healthy.
Look, Kyron Williams, we haven't even mentioned his name. Kyron Williams has really been a saving grace for the Rams from a skill position perspective.
On a complete touchdown streak, too.
I mean, he's scoring every week. Scored 2 last week. Was not horribly efficient at all.
Yep.
Well, actually, was inefficient last week. And I still had 2 scores in that win against the Raiders. Again, if you had the Rams last week, you can be aggravated at Antonio Pierce for not knowing how math works. That's okay on that. Let's go to the anytime touchdown market here, Ryan. And this is a little bit more complex than usual, at least for me this week. Because Kyron Williams at DraftKings, now there are better prices in the market. But Kyron Williams is minus 215. Can't justify laying that. Even if he does get it like Derrick Henry on Monday. If you laid it, you got away with it. But I just don't love laying those type of numbers. You have 3 guys where you're at least laying up some sort of price, not a big one on Jefferson at minus 115 or Jones at minus 110, but you are laying a price. Kupp's at plus 140. Nacua and Addison are plus 185. Hawkinson, who's been officially ruled out, was at plus 205 earlier in the day, but he has been ruled out. And the rest of those numbers, really nothing really stands out to me at all, Ryan. This is a very bland anytime touchdown market here tonight. And even the quarterbacks, who Stafford is north of Trent Sherfield on that list, and Darnold's about 5-1, 6-1, depending on the book. And then obviously Stafford definitely doesn't entice, but Darnold doesn't entice either on that sort of number that's out there right now.
Matthew Stafford only has 1 career rushing touchdown against the Vikings in, I believe, 15 career games. So not exactly worth it with the plus 12-1 price or 1,200 price. But so yeah, looking at those anytime touchdown prices, I do like Justin Jefferson. He's done it in 5 of 6 this year. Aaron Jones has done it in 3 of the 6 this year. So those are 2 that I lean to for the Vikings, those are their 2 most prolific scorers. But the one that I'm rooting for in this tonight's game, do you happen to know where Jalen Naylor went to high school?
Did he go to your high school?
No, he is a Bishop Gorman alum.
Okay.
So he went to high school here in Las Vegas, actually has been playing middle school football. Or I've known him since middle school, been playing middle school football against him. He was on the rival team.
Did he smoke
from middle
you?
school to high school. Middle school? No, it was actually very, very balanced rivalry, being that my quarterback was actually Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Okay,
So
that works.
That was some big help there. But
works.
once we got into high school, those 2 became teammates, and it just wasn't fair. So, but Speedy, Jalen Naylor, has been a monster all throughout his childhood and just a workhorse. So I will be rooting for him to score a touchdown tonight, plus 320 earlier today, now down to plus 290.
Yeah.
So we'll be rooting for Speedy to get a touchdown, but not exactly likely. He did have his 2nd highest receiving game of his career last week. He did get mixed in on the offense. And again, just a fun one for me to root for, being a Bishop Gorman alum in Jalen Naylor, and me being a Palo Verde alum. So rivals there, but yeah. So going into props now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just to look at the Vikings. So Justin Jefferson had a season high 7 catches last week. He did have the most targets he's gotten all season last week. Otherwise, he's only has 4 or 6 catches in his games or in games this season. Other than last week, he has at least a 2.5 yard difference between yards per target and yards per reception. Same thing with Jordan Addison. So the Vikings are scheming yards after catch for both of their important wide receivers to be able to produce for their offense. And as I said, Justin Jefferson has scored a touchdown in 5 of 6 this season. And when Justin Jefferson scores a touchdown in his career, the Vikings are 20-11. Aaron Jones has gone 4-2 to the under on his 15.5 carries this year, but 4-2 to the over of his 70.5 rush yards. And then if you like his total yards, I believe the prop is around in the mid-90s. He's actually gone over 105 total yards in those same 4 games that he went over with rushing yards. So if the Rams are going to produce, if Aaron Jones or Vikings are going to produce, if Aaron Jones is going to produce, he's going to go over his rush receiving yards together if he goes over the rush, which is what I like. And then if you look at Jordan Addison, 3.5 catches. He has gone over in 2 of the 4 games he's played in this season, 1 in 3 on his anytime touchdown market. But he has no more and no less than 3 catches in the 4 games that he's played this season. So that line of 3.5, the hook is the killer there if you take the over. So that's it for the Vikings side, and we can get into the Rams side in here in a little bit.
On the Minnesota end of things, if we're just looking at skill position players, Jones on the receiving and rushing, it all comes down to his health.
Yep.
Been a lingering hamstring injury over the last few weeks. This does seem like a pretty good matchup. Jefferson's going to get his regardless of what the secondary situation is. And the Rams secondary is about league average right now. If you look at the quarterbacks real quick, just going over to both of these guys, Darnold and Matthew Stafford, I would look to Darnold throwing a pick tonight. I would not go north of minus 130. That would be the most that I would do. I actually I have to check the number, and I think I laid $1.20 on it earlier in the day on Darnold to throw a pick. I just, again, this is, if you're going to beat Minnesota this year, you're going to have to force Sam Darnold into bad decisions, and that's by blitzing. And the Rams are willing to blitz as much as anyone in the league right now. Out of the quarterbacks, that's the only way I would look to it. Everyone else's props are in line here. The problem is, like with Stafford's pass attempts, which kind of you look at it and say, all right, probably throw 35 pass attempts. Yeah, I have no idea what the game flow is going to be tonight. Right. I really don't. In a game that's so tightly lined, it wouldn't shock me if Stafford ends up in the mid-20s because the Rams have Kyron Williams have 30 carries tonight.
Yep.
So this is very difficult other than that Darnold interception on the quarterback front, Ryan. That's the only way I would look with him throwing one here tonight to the other team.
So looking at these passing prop numbers for these 2 quarterbacks, we'll start with Matthew Stafford. So Stafford is 4-2 to the under on his pass attempts, pass yards, and pass completions. So again, a big question on what the game flow will be tonight. Probably a heavy run flow, trying to work Kyron or Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back into the Rams offense. He is also 4-2 to the yes on the interception. So I do like Matthew Stafford to throw an interception tonight. You can get the yes at minus 110 if you can still find it there. I really like that price. And then looking at Sam Darnold, 3-3 on his passing yards, 4-2 to the over on his passing touchdowns, but he has 2 straight losses. He is 6-0 to the under on his pass attempts and 5-1 to the under on completions. So the Vikings are using their backfield. They're not making Sam Darnold have to sling it and win games for them. They are using a very balanced offense. So looking at the under pass attempts and pass completions for Sam Darnold. And then I also tried to go back and look at Sam Darnold's career versus Sean McVay. So as a 49er and as a Jet, he is 1-1. Both games were a 1-score game. They were actually decided by less than a field goal. He won by 3 points, lost by 1 point. Both games went under their totals. Neither game, Sam Darnold threw an interception, but he did fumble in both of them. One game, he had 2 fumbles. So 3 turnovers in 2 games for Sam Darnold. That's what the Rams are going to need to do tonight if they are going to win, is make Sam Darnold turn the ball over. And then on the Matthew Stafford side, only 1 game as a Ram versus these Vikings. 9-13 straight up, 6-13-2 against the spread as a Lion. Again, not very good Lions teams, but is 1-0 straight up and against the spread as a Ram. These Rams have won this matchup in the last 2 meetings, both of which have gone 7-18-2 to Minnesota.
Real quick on the skill position end of the Rams.
Sure.
Because Nacua obviously suiting up now. Nakua's 29.5 on receiving yards. I did take a piece of the over. I laid $1.20 at BetMGM.
Okay.
I really would love to do a ladder with Nacua tonight. If you're unfamiliar with that term, shout out to our friends at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network who seem to be doing it before anybody else. You just take, it's exactly what it sounds. You just go over the original number and then go over some alternates. 50 yards is plus 290. 75 was, I have to double check it, but I think it was about plus 550. I just can't get there because this does feel like this could be a lot of Cooper Kupp tonight if the Rams are serious about trading him. And Nakua is just working his way back from a significant knee injury. So be a little bit careful if you attempt the latter with that. Kyren Williams, over 17.5 attempts seems pretty good.
Yes.
Seems pretty good on that one. But other than that, Nakua is the only one I have in pocket right now. But if you want to go over attempts on Williams, I can't really fault you on that, Ryan.
Yeah, no, I completely agree there. So Kyren Williams, anytime touchdown this season is 6 for 6. He is 13-4 in his career as a starter to the yes on anytime touchdown. Over on attempts in 5 of 6 this season, including a game with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Over on his rushing yards in the last 4, did not go over in the first 2 games of the year. And then 3-3 on the receptions, but only 1 target in the last 2 weeks. So I would not be looking at Kyren Williams over 2.5 receptions. Puka Nacua in games with the trio of Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua. The Rams are 7-5 straight up, but Puka Nacua is 9-3 to the under on his receptions and 7-5 to the under on yards. So 50-50, almost 60-40 on the yard split for Puka Nacua on the yardage. But again, when all 4 of these players are healthy, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Kyren Williams, the Rams are 6-2. And Kyren Williams averages 112 rush yards per game on 20.5 carries. So again, with everybody healthy, Kyren Williams has gone over on his attempts and over on his yardage. So it could be a great script for Kyren Williams in this one.
Yeah, again, it's overjuiced for a reason on Williams, and he has been a bell cow this year for the Rams. And honestly, since he took over that job midway through last year, he's been a total bell cow.
Yeah.
He's been one of the best running backs in the NFL.
So much of a bell cow that they wanted
games.
to work him as a punt returner.
Yeah, well, that was stupid to begin with. Yeah, if you get the ball in his hands, yes, let's get our running back hurt while returning punts. Yeah, what a great idea when that was.
Oh, I do have one more note on Cooper Kupp. So Cooper Kupp has played, this is his 8th year in the league. He's played a full 16 or 17 game season in 2 of the previous 7 seasons. So I tried to go back and look at when he missed 4+ games in a season and managed to come back in that same season. The only time that did happen was last year. He came back, played against the 5-0 Philadelphia Eagles, and had a big game. So if Cooper Kupp is healthy, they are not going to limit him. Sean McVay has no worries. Matthew Stafford, that is his favorite target. Cooper Kupp had 8 catches on 12 targets last year for 118 yards. So I don't expect Cooper Kupp to be limited if he is a full go in this one.
Let's look at some college games tonight, Ryan. We have 2 on the docket. Let's start with the game that's first in the rotation numbers, but going at 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 local time in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pitt, Syracuse, old Big East rivalries, my friend. Now in the ACC, and I don't think a lot of people expected these teams to be a combined 11-1 going into tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Pitt has already gone over their win totals in most shops. Syracuse approaching theirs at this rate. This was 6 most of the week. Now it's 5.5. Both of these quarterbacks, Eli Holstein for Pittsburgh, Kyle McCord for Syracuse, they both played at a pretty significantly higher level than I think any of us expected going into this year. I get McCord's numbers are down technically from last year at Ohio State, but let's just look at the weaponry between the last 2 years. Of course, McCord's numbers, even though he may be better, are going to look a little bit worse because, not throwing to Emeka Egbuka anymore. He's not throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr. The weaponry is just not as good at Syracuse, obviously, as it is at Ohio State. Ryan, I took 6. I took 6 in this game with Syracuse. Pitt has been a tremendous story.
Yeah.
They're 6-0. They're already going bowling. This is a team that win totals that put up for the full season were around 5.5, 4.5. They're projected to be a bottom-tier ACC team. But they have gotten pretty darn lucky for the most part this year. Big comeback against Cincinnati to win that game by 1. Down 10 with 4 minutes to go against West Virginia. Come back and win that game in regulation. UNC game was tied at halftime. Pitt was better in that game. I acknowledge that. But
I think that game had some other outside things as well. because that was the same week that the hurricane happened in North Carolina. So I think some players on the Carolina side had some other things going on mentally.
And then their last game against Cal, they were not overly impressive. They only win by 2, 17-15, had to stop a 2-point conversion in order to hold on and then get a few first downs on their own end. Look, Syracuse, I still don't know what happened in that Stanford game. I still can't give you what it was, other than the fact that, you know what, some teams, when you're just learning how to win, you got off to a 2-0 start, beat a ranked Georgia Tech team at the time in their second game. Sometimes you just can't handle success properly. And they were off a long break with a bye as well. And Syracuse did not play well in that game. And Stanford beat them. And in retrospect, it was a horrible loss by Syracuse. Since then, Holy Cross, all right, whatever. It's supposed to beat up on Holy Cross. They won back-to-back road games. This is a rare 3-game road trip here for a college team. 12 days off, though, for Syracuse in between. Maybe there's a concern about how they handled the bye the first time, but I look, you gave me 6. I don't think Pitt should be that big of a favorite against a reasonable team, and Syracuse definitely fits that bill of being a reasonable team, especially on offense, Ryan.
We made the point that Syracuse last played 12 days ago. Pitt did as well.
Yep.
So no advantage rest-wise for these teams. But to that point, you said Syracuse, this is their 3rd straight road game. I would tend to think that favors the team that doesn't have to travel in this matchup. So Pitt minus the 5.5, I do think that is the right number. Mm-hmm. But looking at this one, so Eli Holstein last week had the worst game as a college quarterback last week versus Cal. First game without a touchdown pass in the 5 games prior this season. He had 3 touchdown passes in each of them. Syracuse has forced at least 1 interception in 5 of 6 games this year. That is going to be the key to this one. If Syracuse is able to force turnovers, they are going to be able to steal this one on the road. But again, 3rd straight road game, and you had gone through their schedule a little bit. But other than week 1 versus Ohio, every matchup versus this season versus an FBS opponent has been a 1-score game. So if you're going to play a real program or a team that wants to prove that they're a real program, it is going to be a big test for Syracuse, especially when we got to see them here in Las Vegas against UNLV, and they almost should have lost that game versus our Rebels. So a lean to the home team in this one. Haven't seen enough out of Syracuse to say that they'll go into Pitt and win.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. This is an important game in ACC play at this point. I mean, Pitt is still alive for actually, forget Pitt. They're both still alive for an ACC championship game, potentially. Also, Syracuse ends the season with Miami, and we'll have to do it. Bring it up. The $25,000 guaranteed college rivalry jackpot parlay card. I'll say that 15 times fast. 15 games. You're on the table. You're going to have a chance to win that $25,000. It's just like our week 1 promo here at the South Point Rampart. All the Gone Gaming books here in Nevada, up in Mesquite at Virgin River and Casablanca as well. Look, you got plenty of time. You got a little over a month to get this thing filled out. 15 games, including the battle for Nevada and UNLV. Syracuse and Miami's on here. Arizona State, that territorial cup down there, just due south of us. Texas A&M back on the docket again after all those years away. Thank you, college conference realignment, actually helping us out get a big time rivalry back there.
Yeah, and the thing to remember about this parlay card is that it's $5 for each card. You can do as many as you want. Yep. Pools up $25,000. If it goes over, that gets added to the jackpot pool. So week 1, this parlay card was up for 2 weeks.
Oh no, 2 months.
2 months. 2 months.
2 months.
Okay, so about similar amount of time, but it got up to almost $40,000. The single winner, week 1 in the NFL of this jackpot parlay, took home almost $40,000 by themselves. So if you are a solo winner, you can win at least $25,000. If you have to split it, it gets split evenly. So come down to the South Point, get this $25,000 guaranteed jackpot parlay card, and could be a winner. So
we'll tell you, just eyeballing this right now, Farmageddon between Kansas State and Iowa State. Any excuse to say that?
I know it's such a great game.
It's the hardest, at least at the moment, to me, is the hardest game on this parlay card. But that can change. We got a lot of time left in the college football regular season, even though it's a little over a month to go. All right, the other game real quick is it a favorite flip. Georgia Southern Oh, did you?
I forgot my note that I mentioned that you wanted me to specify.
Yes. Pitt and Syracuse here. So, Ryan has a note on the total real quick.
I went and looked at all-time numbers. This rivalry has been being played since 1916, so a lot of matchups. Again, very different teams since 1916. I know it's not the same, but all-time, Pitt leads 43-32-3. Pitt is 18-3 since 2002, including 10 straight wins at home. 5 straight of these games have gone under this 62.5. The under 62.5 is 20-3 since 2000. All time, only 6 of these 79 matchups have gone over this total. So I've laid the under just because rivalry trends say so. So if you like the numbers, if you like the history, under 62.5 in this one for Syracuse Pitt.
The other game tonight, real quick, we don't have too much on this because I thought when Georgia Southern was an underdog in this game, this was actually a good bet on the underdog road team here tonight. Now that it's flipped to Georgia Southern 1.5, after it was Old Dominion 1.5 point favorites in this game, this is now a stay off. It's a funky spot for both teams because both teams are coming off wins against the two teams that were expected to be the two of the best teams in the Sun Belt this year. In James Madison getting upset pretty handily. Georgia Southern took care of them pretty easily last week in a 2-touchdown win at home, 28-14. And then Old Dominion stunned Texas State. They made Jordan McLeod look really bad last week. 2 picks for the JMU transfer now at Texas State, 24-14. Old Dominion won that one. So this is, Ryan, this is a nice, good old-fashioned stay-off. I'll look in-game. We'll see how everybody looks here in this one tonight there in the state of Virginia, right there in Norfolk at ODU.
Yeah, it's a stay off for me as well. I tend to lean to the home team in this one because it is a matchup between two teams that are competing for the top spot in the Sun Belt East. So Georgia Southern currently owns that. Going on the road to a team just behind them, I would think that fires Old Dominion up just as much as anybody. So Old Dominion also won this game last year at Georgia Southern. So you would tend to think Georgia Southern could get the revenge factor in this one, but Old Dominion trying to compete to play in the Sun Belt Championship, so I would have to think that they're going to be fired up for this one, and they're the home dog, so that's my lean in this one.
Yes, the Sun Belt with still actually divisions, the only one left at this rate. Their best path to the playoff is, to me, at least for that conference I'm saying as a whole, is Louisiana Lafayette wins out and gets a whole boatload of help. That is their best path at this point to getting in the college football playoff if they were to get there. But I think they're pretty much done. CUSA, their chase for the playoff ended last night with Liberty getting stunned by Kennesaw State as a 27-point favorite. Liberty losing outright to Kennesaw. First ever win for Kennesaw State.
Someone on the desk had some money line, huh?
Look, sometimes you get something right. Sometimes you get something very right, Ryan McCormick.
Good call on that one. Good call.
The blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, Ryan. But Kennesaw, congratulations to the Owls. First ever FBS win last night. All right, we'll take a quick break, and we get back. Power rankings in the NFL for us, and we'll look at some games coming up over the weekend in both the NFL and college. And, of course, our guy, Dwayne Colucci, joins us in about 10 minutes from now, right here on Sports by the Book Football Frenzy.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book Football Frenzy. Jeff Parles, Ryan McCormick. Happy to be with you as always. Dwayne Colucci joins us in about 10 minutes from now. But let's get into it. Our power rankings, top 10. There will be no Green Bay Packers on Ryan's list, even though Ryan really has them in the top 10. We'll preface that as we go through it. But we'll start with mine right out of the gate here. And I'm going to tell you, Ryan, I had a pretty hard time with 9 and 10 this week. That's really where my difficulty popped up. Because the rest of the list, 1 through 8, thought seemed pretty self-explanatory. If you want to quibble with some of the order, I have no problem with that. Kansas City remains at 1. Ryan, the Kansas City Chiefs had the best defense in the NFL.
Yes, they do.
I don't think we can argue that point anymore. Patrick Mahomes has more interceptions than touchdowns, and the Chiefs have a legitimate shot to win 15 games this year because of that defense playing at an obscenely high level, and there's no reason to think it won't continue to play at an obscenely high level. Detroit and Baltimore I have separated by 0.5 point at this point. They're basically even. Detroit gets the nod barely because in a sentence I didn't think I would utter, I like Detroit's defense slightly more than I like Baltimore's defense, even without Aiden Hutchinson. Look, I think Tampa imploded on Monday night. I think that was more so than anything why that game ended up going the way it did. But look, Baltimore, boy, if Lamar Jackson going to play like that, and we know he owns the NFC, as Troy Aikman said, all he's got to do is get through Super Bowl, finally win one. But boy, those top 3 teams in the NFL have set themselves apart from everybody else, at least in my book. And then you get to the middle of the top 10. 4 through 7, I'll get to the Niners, don't worry. 4 through 7, I think if you threw them in a hat and picked out an order, I would not complain with any of them. Minnesota still gets the nod over Green Bay because guess what? They went to Lambeau and they beat Green Bay. So they still get the nod. I have my questions with Darnold, but we already talked about that earlier when talking about tonight's game. The Packers, look, I like Green Bay's defense a lot. I think they're undervalued. The question with Jordan Love is protecting the football. That epic touchdown throw that should have been an interception and that was a touchdown. I'm still not 100% there in his decision-making, but if he's going to play at a high level, Green Bay is awfully, awfully good. Number 6 is Houston. They get the slight nod over Buffalo, even though I will say I'm concerned about Houston's offensive line. They've really struggled against the better teams that they've played so far this year. Stroud has struggled in those games because the offensive line has not played particularly well. I still think Houston's defense is a little bit underrated, though. Buffalo, look, the Amari Cooper addition was unbelievable. The best, forget the Devontae Adams trade or anything. There's not going to be, more likely than not, there's not going to be a better move via trade this year than the Bills adding Amari Cooper. They needed a real number 1 wide receiver who could win on the outside. Cooper gives them that. Buffalo's at 7. I think this, assuming Minnesota doesn't fall apart, Ryan, I think this top 7 is going to be pretty steady for a while now. It's just a matter of the jockeying for position at this point. The Niners just stay at 8 because they have all this talent, but they're injured and they're not playing well on defense now. Look, Brandon Ayuk's season is over. Deebo Samuel was dealing with pneumonia last week. Christian McCaffrey, who knows when we'll see him. Kittle's banged up. Even the secondary receivers are banged up. And Purdy's coming off of his second worst game of his NFL career this past week against Kansas City. And that defense is pretty average, even with all that talent. They stay at 8 just on their laurels of what their talent is. But if they lose this week to Dallas, and look, if Dallas is ever going to beat them, it's got to be right here this week, assuming Parsons comes back for Dallas. If they lose to Dallas, they might be out of the top 10 altogether for me, just because of, look, the priors should be mostly gone at this point. They still are a little bit there, but they are 3-5, and 2 of their wins against AFC East competition, they're just not that good. Now this is where I really struggled. Still not quite there on the Steelers where, I know they're 5-2. I know they have a top flight defense. I'm not buying Russell Wilson. I know he played well for probably about the last quarter and a half. Not buying that long term still. Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Tampa's screwed after the injuries. Godwin's season's likely done. Evans is going to be out for a while. They're in big trouble. The Falcons are not trustworthy, as we found out yet again last weekend. Seattle, I think, is highly flawed as well. And then the Bengals, I think the Bengals are widely flawed as well. Same with the Chargers, who are in this almost famous mix. Philly goes to 9. Look, they've handled their business the last 2 weeks. They've beaten teams they're better than. Now they'll take the step up with getting Cincinnati this week at home. Let's see how they handle that. They could very easily be one and done in this list again. And then Washington at number 10, keep them there. There's no reason for me to move the Commanders. If Jaden Daniels is out an extended period of time, then you move him. But for right now, I'm assuming at most Daniels is missing one game. I'll keep him at 10. We're going to learn a lot about him. That really fun matchup between if Daniels goes, the top 2 picks in the NFL draft with Chicago going to DC this week.
Man, I'm so excited for that game, and I really wish Jaden Daniels.
I hope he can play.
Does play.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if you want him to play though.
I don't think he does. I want him to see him play. I want to see the Bears completely dismantle his rookie of the year conversation. They're the best defense that they have played all year. Anyway, now getting into my top 10. So I have the same top 3 as Jeff: the Chiefs, the Lions, the Ravens. The Chiefs adding DeAndre Hopkins is a great move for them. They needed a weapon, but I do think DeAndre Hopkins is much more towards the end of his career than even the middle of his career. So I don't think D-Hop is the same weapon that he once was, but again, it's still an upgrade for the Chiefs. Again, Jeff had said it's a half point between the Lions and Ravens. I think it's closer. I honestly wanted to put the Ravens above the Lions, but to Jeff's point last week, I like the Bucs a lot. I think losing those 2 weapons really hurt them. They completely fell off the wagon, completely fell off the wheels once Mike Evans got hurt. And then they were just trying to force things down the field, going east and west instead of north and south, trying to get first downs, just chunk plays instead of first downs. They just weren't playing Buccaneer football. They were trying to do too much, and that's what cost them that game, and that's ultimately why I have the Ravens still at 3. But I do have the Buffalo Bills at 4. I have them hopping the Vikings since the Vikings lost to the Lions. Vikings blew a 10-point lead and blew a late-game comeback to the Lions. So they're still at 5, but I do think the Bills are a real deal with Amari Cooper as their wide receiver 1. And then the asterisk is at 6. So Houston Texans, you're not going to see the team that I don't want to mention. But
Green
Houston
Bay
Texans,
is 6 in Ryan's real list, everyone.
Houston
Green
Texans,
Bay is 6.
Whatever you want to call it. 3 NFC North teams in the top 6. So, but the Houston Texans at 6. Again, still a question about Nico Collins. But 6 through about 14 really have questions for me, whether it's injuries, coaching staff, that kind of thing. But I have the Eagles at 7 above the Niners because I think having the weapons of A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and finally getting a consistent use out of Saquon Barkley and your running game is a great help. Jeff's point of the Niners losing Brandon Ayuk for the year does bring them down. And Kyle Shanahan has shown that he runs his scheme and he doesn't really change his scheme. Against defenses of Steve Spagnuolo, Brian Flores, and Jim Schwartz, in his career, Kyle Shanahan is 1-16 straight up against those teams. So Chiefs, Vikings, and a couple others, and then the Eagles and Browns for Schwartz. So Niners at 8. Steelers, I do have at 9. Honestly, the perfect spot for Mike Tomlin to make the change from Russell Wilson or from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson. You play against the Jets, you play against the Giants, both at home. Then you get your bye week. You get the Jets to see where you play against good defense. You get the Giants to play against a god-awful team, and then you get the bye week to figure out what you're doing to fit for the rest of the year. I think it was a perfect spot for Mike Tomlin to make the change to Russell Wilson, and they looked good in that second half. The Jets also looked awful. And
You're
then
being nice.
Yeah. And then I do have the Washington Commanders at 10. They did their job last week against the Panthers, and they're going to have a great test this week against the Bears. But again, a question about whether or not Jaden Daniels is playing. If it is Marcus Mariota, they move beneath the Falcons and the Jets at 11 and 12. And the Bears are at 14 for me. So they'd be I have already taken the Bears minus the 2.5 because I don't think Jaden Daniels plays this weekend.
It'll be very interesting with Pittsburgh because this week, and I'll just throw this out there, this screams Mike Tomlin loses to inferior team in home week. And it just screams that. And
if it was on the road, maybe. But in Pittsburgh, I don't think so.
They've done this at home multiple years in a row now. They lost to New England. They lost to Arizona. They've lost to these awful teams at home. And the Giants have 10 points in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So look, who knows? And I'll say this with the AFC at this point before we bring Dwayne in. The AFC is a mess right now. Once you get past the 4 division leaders, where they're all legitimate top 6 teams, 7 teams for us, Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, Houston. Once you get past that, I guess by default, Pittsburgh has to go next. And then it's just throw your hands up and say, all right, whoever gets hot last is probably getting those last 2 playoff spots.
Yep.
Indy's at 4-3 right now, and Richardson can barely complete a forward pass.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Denver's 4-3 right now with horrible quarterback play with Bo Nix. The Chargers are 500 after that, whatever that was on Monday night in the loss to Arizona. The Jets and the Dolphins are both disasters, even though Miami gets Tua back this week. And then, I mean, just a lot of bad teams. And the Bengals are underwater. It's just a lot of bad teams in the AFC right now. All right, we'll take a 1-minute break. When we get back, Dwayne Colucci joins us. We'll get the thoughts on all the games tonight, and we'll ask Dwayne about the big games across the NFL and college football this week, right here on Sports by the Book Football Frenzy.
South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Back in Sports by the Book Football Frenzy. Happy to be with you as always. Jeff Parles, Ryan McCormick alongside me, and now joining us in the middle of the screen as he always does up at the Rampart, our good friend Dwayne Colucci joins us right now. Dwayne, it's good to see you as always. Let's just dive right in, my friend, because there's football on Thursday as always, and you know, I didn't even think about this. This may begin the multiple day stretch of the Rams-Dodger parlay here for game 1 of the series, and the Rams tonight against the Vikings. You're at 2.5 on Minnesota right now. Total's back at the originator at 47 right now.
Yeah, tough game to handicap just because the quick turnaround basically for Minnesota after a very difficult game against Detroit over the weekend. So this is, honestly a very difficult game from my standpoint to handicap. We're seeing some good two-way action. I mean, we were at 3. Now we're back to 2.5. Like you said, the total is at the origination. Nakua may actually suit up tonight. I've just seen a report about that.
Yep.
It's just a question of how many plays will he play and how many snaps. Cooper Kupp as well. He's banged up. Stafford, he hasn't looked all that great. So this is definitely a tough game to handicap. I personally believe Minnesota is by far the better team right now with the health issues from the Rams, but anything is possible, and now you're traveling to the road into LA, so it's going to be a very difficult game if you ask me. We're seeing some good two-way action. I'm looking at it mainly heavy on the Vikings, but that's the initial response from the Sharps. Now we're seeing good parlay and teaser action going both ways, and like you said, a lot of the LA fans are doing the Dodger Ram dance, and they want to see both those LA teams succeed. The World Series is definitely more important though, from Los Angeles' standpoint and their fan standpoint. But I think this is going to be an exciting game, and I think the Rams have a chance just because of the fact that you're playing on short rest after that difficult Detroit game.
Well, we had mentioned Jeff, and you had mentioned the parlay between the Rams and the Dodgers. Is there anybody putting together a parlay between the Yankees and Syracuse tonight?
Oh, there we go, Ryan.
There you go. Yeah, definitely. Well, I still have my Yankee fans here because I'm from New York and I attract a lot of New York business here at the Rampart. But no, I haven't had somebody specifically hammer that Syracuse and New York Yankee parlay.
Okay.
Even though the Orangemen have played really well this year, Ryan, they've played exceptionally well from the college football standpoint. And they're a team that's usually synonymous more with basketball, but they played very well this year. Case in point, they beat the Rebels, who only have one loss, and that's the one blemish on the Rebels record, who have a big game as well tomorrow night against Boise. So, definitely Syracuse has been a team that has had some marketability and some market value from the public standpoint.
Well, Ryan stumbled onto one of the great marketing platforms of all time of Syracuse. Syracuse promoting the hell out of themselves as New York City's team for all those years.
Right?
Yeah, Dwayne, just to put a bow on this real quick with the Minnesota game real quick with the Vikings and the Rams. Just how much have you moved Minnesota up through this year? Just because, again, a team that was, a 6.5, 7.5 win total team that is playing way above their weight so far through their first 6 games.
Yeah, they've played way above their weight, but I kind of knew that Darnold was serviceable. A lot of people have asked me this question, and I haven't gone through the roof with the power rankings because I somewhat knew they would be a decent team. I mean, you look at the NFC, and the NFC is extremely weak. Now, Jeff, you said that the AFC is in disarray right now, but you still have the monsters in the Ravens, the Chiefs. Like we said, the Steelers are playing very well. Buffalo now with Amari Cooper. So you know where you stand with the AFC. The NFC, I mean, San Francisco is in disarray. I thought they'd be running the table right now. New Detroit would be good. So Detroit is the team that, they're proving their merit. But the NFC East is horrible. I mean, when you think about it, and Ryan isn't too far off, you have Jaden Daniels in the 10 spot of your power rankings in the NFL. Nobody anticipated that. Everybody felt Philly would be better, Dallas would be better. And Philly is, they're moving up because all of a sudden Hurts decided to throw to A.J. Brown. But Sirianni is still the coach, and that is definitely a cluster over there. They're riding on Saquon. Do not buy into it so quickly because Saquon laid a beating on the Giants. That's expected. He wanted to ram it, down their throats. So, I think that the NFC is, definitely an enigma right now. San Francisco, they have a lot to do to get back to the top position with Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota all ahead of them. So Minnesota was definitely a team that I thought could surprise. You knew Atlanta and Tampa were going to be somewhat good, but New Orleans is horrible like we anticipated. Carolina, terrible. Bears, terrible. I think that any positives I can't find, even with Caleb Williams with the Bears. So, this is definitely not a position that Minnesota was like, I felt they could be in a good position, not out of the question like a lot of people had thought going into the regular season. So they haven't really moved up in my power rankings because I felt they would be somewhat of a decent team, especially with Darnold getting all this experience from the Jets to Carolina, and San Francisco is where he really learned a lot with them going to a Super Bowl. You get playoff experience, even though you're on the sideline. You get a sense of the urgency. So Minnesota is outperforming themselves, but not by that much. I mean, the NFC is not good at all.
Yeah, look, I'll just piggyback on this. Before I do that, real quick, Puka Nacua is active tonight. That is confirmed by ESPN now. We're still waiting for the tweet to officially go out from the Rams, but he will not be on that inactive list unless if we're getting bad intel in the next 90 seconds or so. But Dwayne, it's interesting because you mentioned it where we thought the AFC was going to be. I mean, there were some that thought, there might be a 10-win team left out in the AFC. That's obviously not happening. But you mentioned it on the NFC side where Detroit looks like the best team in the conference. Green Bay looks as good as a lot of people thought they would be. But it makes for a very interesting futures market on that NFC side where the team that was the betting favorite coming into the year and is still pretty short in the Niners is in such a mess. And look, this weekend your Cowboys go there, Dwayne. And if your Cowboys are ever
Get out of here, Jeff.
If your Cowboys are ever,
Who's worried?
Hold on a second. If your Cowboys are ever going to beat the Niners, it kind of
Now's the time. Right.
It has to be this weekend, Dwayne.
Jeff, we couldn't beat the Jets. Let's put it that way. We could not beat your Jets.
I don't know about that, Dwayne.
Dallas is just, let me tell you, it's just week in, week out. And, we got the bye week, but that's off of a massive beaten, guys. I mean, they need to get healthy. I mean, we do have 7 guys on the injured list in that last game prior to the bye week. So, yeah, Dallas does have a chance this week. You're catching Ayuk is out for the season. No McCaffrey. He'll be back, though, soon. So, definitely the coaching staff has to learn how to change it up, especially now with two possibly great running backs, and you have Debo. You got to mix it up a little. So San Francisco is still very capable, but this is a week that the Cowboys can win. I think they have to open up the offense. Dowdle has to be more of a factor. You have to not just focus on CD and getting him the ball as much as he pouts. You have to mix it up, and hopefully Brandon Cooks will get healthy. Lawrence, Parsons, we need all these guys to be healthy. The division is definitely for the taking, but it won't be there too long because Philadelphia is starting now to learn how to win again, and they're definitely the front runner. And with Jaden Daniels being hurt, we don't know how long he'll be hurt, but he's been phenomenal. I mean, definitely by far the rookie of the year up until now, and unless he misses significant time, Dallas can compete in this division. I won't even mention the Giants. They're the worst team maybe in football, so we'll keep our eye on it. Dallas needs this victory. This is a very, very tough game, especially with the 49ers injuries and the way they've been playing. They haven't been playing all that well at all. So the market has been split on this game. It's a marquee matchup, despite both teams having, a bad regular season thus far. It's a focal game. Dallas needs to show up in this game, but I'm not sure if they're capable, guys.
All right, Dwayne, I do want to ask you about the other college game tonight, Georgia Southern at Old Dominion. It is a favorite flip. So what opened Old Dominion -1.5. It is now Georgia Southern down to -1. But Old Dominion's quarterback, Colt Joseph, is making his 5th career start as a redshirt freshman. What are you seeing in this one?
I'm seeing a 4-1 ticket count, Ryan, on the game. They're betting, they are betting Georgia Southern now -1 in Old Dom. So, we're seeing a lot of parlays and teasers hooked up to tomorrow night's games, which have a really, really nice college slate, as well as, some parlays with the World Series and tonight's NFL game. So, definitely you saw the flip. We're looking at about a 4-1 ticket count. Now you have the home team as the underdog. Most of the players on Georgia Southern here at the Rampart in the South Point.
Dwayne, just want to go to this weekend in college football and beginning with tomorrow night, where this is the biggest home game in UNLV history, unless if there's a Mountain West title game here in about a month plus between these two teams. Boise State comes to town to 3.5-point favorites right now. This game opened at 3, and as Vinny would say, it's been a toggler between 3 and 3.5. What have you seen so far in this one where, Dwayne, these teams are as good as you get for non-power conference at this point?
Yeah, definitely. And the way the season has been, Jeff, they definitely, UNLV even has a chance, an outside chance at the playoffs.
Yes,
so,
they do.
Yeah, definitely. This is a very, very important game. They're anticipating 40,000 fans I've seen, quoted at Allegiant. This is a tough game. We're seeing a 3-1 ticket count, though, right now on Boise. People are starting to back Boise, but, the home money is definitely going to come in tomorrow. I think the Rebels have an excellent, excellent chance. It's all about injuries and, health in this game, but I definitely think the Rebels with 3.5 is a much more appealing take than just with a field goal. Plus, you're at home. They played great. Even in the game against Syracuse, they were right in it. So I think the Rebels have an excellent chance here. But like I said, we're seeing a high count on Boise so far. But there's a lot of betting to be done, especially tonight before the NFL game and the college games into tomorrow. So I anticipate we're going to have a high parlay and teaser count on the Rebels when all is said and done. But Boise is very tough. Number 17 in the country, as the graphic shows you. They've done very little wrong. A Heisman candidate. Definitely a tough team.
All right, now I want to go to Saturday afternoon. 2 teams that I have power rated in my top 10, both in the SEC, LSU at Texas A&M. going to be a great one in Aggieland. What are you seeing in this one, Dwayne?
Yeah, this is a tough game. I'll be honest with you. You know, I have a huge Baton Rouge clientele, with Jimmy Ott and his guys out there on ESPN Baton Rouge. I'm on weekly there, and they're geared up for this game as much as they were geared up to come out here in Las Vegas. Right now, plus 1.5, LSU is getting 1.5, playing the Aggies here. I'm seeing barely a 2-to-1 money count on LSU. Ticket count isn't just 2-to-1 as of yet, but number 8 versus number 14. I think the Aggies have been very tough at home. I mean, earlier in the season, they laid that vicious beating. I think it was on Missouri. So, I like the Aggies in this spot. I think minus 1.5 is a gift. I think they're going to blow out LSU. Don't let my Baton Rouge fans hear about that, but I'm thinking Texas A&M is really going to make a statement here. And, the SEC has been so difficult to handicap, Ryan. We've seen it the whole season, whether it's Alabama, Georgia bounced back right into a monstrous game, and that was a perfect spot for them last week. Now Texas is back down to earth. You've seen teams play very well this year, whether it was South Carolina, Vandy played some good games. So, anything is possible in the SEC, and this is definitely a marquee matchup. And I think maybe people are overvaluing LSU, not in this particular matchup, but in the rankings and overall. I think that Texas A&M could definitely and will win this game.
Dwayne, before we let you go, I have to ask you, because I'm obligated to, when the service academies are as good as they are. Notre Dame and Navy will play in the Meadowlands this week. Right now, the market low is at all the Gone Gaming properties, 13. It's mostly gone back to 14 here, Dwayne, which begs the question, when are you guys going to get inundated with Notre Dame money in all likelihood?
Well, I like when Chris gambles. I definitely think Navy has a chance. We're gambling with an undefeated team here. So, Navy definitely, they get up for this matchup. And like you said, both the service academies are playing lights out this year. We're definitely going to get plied. I'm waiting for one of my bigger players to roll in and just hammer this game. Like you said, most of the markets around town are at the 13.5, 14, but we're seeing a 2-to-1 ticket count on Navy right now. And the money is high on Navy here. So, this is like old school bookmaking where you used to go to Caesars and you go across the street to the Barbary and you had a 2-point difference, and you go back down the street to, the Excalibur or wherever, and you had another 2-point difference. So, you shop around and you can find the right line. We're going to get hit with Notre Dame money, but right now it's been all Navy money at our property. And this is proof that we do not move on air like all these people, these expert handicappers. Oh, well, all these casinos now and all these places move on air. No, we do not. And Chris Andrews does not. Vinny Magliulo does not. Jimmy Vaccaro does not. I would not. So, this is the old school bookmaking. We're booking to our room. So far, the money is on Navy. Like you said, though, Jeff, we're going to take that Notre Dame hit because we're the lowest in the market, but we're dealing with a team that's undefeated. So definitely Navy has a chance, especially with Notre Dame with that pitiful loss earlier in the season, which shows they could lose to a subpar team, and Navy is more of a higher quality opponent. So keep your eye on the way the market sways this game at the Rampart and South Point. This is going to be one of the marquee matchups, even though the point spread is that large. And we have several of these teams that are laying big point spreads this weekend. So, we're anticipating great action. We had tremendous handle over Saturday, over this Saturday as well. So, it's just been fabulous here at the Rampart and South Point, guys. Just the home of football. And if you're in Las Vegas, you have to come and visit us. This is where you will find those lines that, you feel are out of whack, but we're booking to our room. We're not just keeping in line with what offshore does and what the rest of the country does.
Dwayne Colucci, of course, NY Bookie Dwayne on the tweets, race and sportsbook director up at the Rampart, with us every Thursday to round out the show, as always. Dwayne, pleasure, my friend. We'll see you again next week.
Jeff, Ryan, thank you so much. And let's make some money. Let's cash some tickets this weekend. And we got the Breeders' Cup next weekend. So I'll have a horse or two for you guys on Thursday.
Awesome.
And we got that great show with Ralph Sirocco. Don't forget about on Wednesday at 4:00. That's going to be off the hook. Myself, John Lindo, Ralph, Vinny, Chris will be there. We're going to give you some winners for the Breeders' Cup. The greatest weekend of racing is up and coming next weekend, not this weekend.
Very good. Awesome. Dwayne Colucci, as always, We appreciate you hopping on, Dwayne. Ryan, before we go here, the chat's been active, as it always has, and a lot of opinions in there today.
Yeah, we've got John, Matt Helmer, Alex White's in there, Vince Las Vegas, and then I asked everybody what everybody was thinking for tonight's games. But Alex, let us know, to your point that Mike Tomlin might blow this game against the Giants this weekend. But Mike Tomlin on Monday Night Football is 20-3, and then we also have Matt Helmer. Saying hail to Pitt, big game tonight against Syracuse, and that Aaron Rodgers should retire. And John agrees that it's towards the end of Rodgers' career.
How did we get on Aaron Rodgers?
We talking about the Jets.
Oh, okay, good enough.
No.
I'll have a counter to Tomlin's number on Monday, Ryan.
Okay.
I'm going to save that for Monday when the Giants and the Steelers do battle on Monday Night Football. All right. Puka Nacua is officially active, so set your lineups accordingly in fantasy football and such. Ryan, good work as always.
You too.
Jerry, Sean, Ann, everyone here, thank you as always. Dwayne, thank you to you as well. Thank you to everyone in the chat. We'll see you again next time on this show, which is tomorrow. It's the Bookmaker Show, 2:00. Myself, Vinny, Chris, Jimmy, we're all here. Get you ready for football across the board, college and NFL. We'll see you then. Sports by the Book, Football Frenzy.